After exiting, are you good?
Yeah.
Started. After exiting the bus, you come to the very front of the bus. You tell the tester, I'm looking for any leaks. I do see an AC leak that is normal. Also, look under the bus. So physically look under the bus, looking for any oil leaks or transmission leaks. Once you've done that, you test your mirrors. Now you have to say, my mirror mounting brackets are securely fastened to the bus, not excessively rusted, no broken or missing bolts, and you have to test each mirror mounting bracket. They're all secure. Next, you tell the tester I'm going to open the hood, so you unlatch it, go to the other side. Unlatch it. Well, I found the easiest way. There's a handle here, and I hold on to this mirror mounting bracket. Give it a good pull, and hand on top, because it is heavy. Then I always start on the driver's side. So going around to the driver's side, first thing you want to inspect is all of your belt-driven items. We only have belt-driven items. You can tell by looking at this little diagram here. So the first thing you come to on the belt drive is power steering, PS. The next thing you're going to talk about is the AC compressor. Next thing you want to talk about is the water pump, exactly in the middle. Then you have your alternator here. That is all the 4 components that you need to worry about. So getting into that, here we go. Our power steering motor is here.
Take it out of the case.
So here is our belt on it. Can't really see. No. This right here is your power steering motor. It is securely mounted and fastened to the engine. It is belt driven, and I see no signs of leaking at the fittings. Next is your AC compressor here. Again, securely mounted to the engine. No signs of leaks and belt driven. Behind the power steering motor is the water pump directly in the middle. No signs of leaking, securely mounted to the engine. On the other side of the vehicle, you have your alternator here. Belt driven, 2 bolts in the back hold it in place, securely mounted to the engine. Any wires that go to it are fully protected and held out of the way to avoid any moving parts. Here are your wires. Again, any electrical wires are fully protected and mounted with clips out of the way to avoid moving parts. Back to the other side of the engine. Also belt-driven alternator. I have to say that. You're checking the belt next. So this is the belt here that drives all of our parts. You are allowed 3/4 of an inch of play at the center. The belt is nice and tight. No signs of damage, cracks, frays, or rips. Then you move on to your hoses. Here is your upper radiator hose. No signs of damage or leaks. Fittings are secure. Then you have your bottom radiator hose here. Same thing. Fittings are attached and secure. No signs of leaks or damage. Next is fluid check. So this is your radiator reservoir, coolant reservoir. It has to be between the full cold and full hot lines, which it is. It's in the normal operating range. You do not have to take this off. You never take it off if it's hot. You have to say never take it off if it's hot. It is firmly attached, secure. Next, brake fluid. This side is your dipstick side. You do not have to physically show them that your fluid is at the correct level. You just have to know how to check it. Unscrew this. Make sure it is not below the refill mark. You have to physically inspect the master cylinder and all the fittings. It is not leaking any brake fluid at the fittings, here and here. Next fluid check is power steering. Here you can tell the little steering wheel. It has to be at the max line or above the minimum line, which ours is both. So it is in the normal operating range. Cap is secure. This is your dipstick here. Moving on, there is your oil dipstick here, the yellow one. You do not have to remove and check the oil for the tester. You have to tell her the process. To check the oil in the engine, you remove this yellow dipstick, swipe it clean, reinsert the dipstick into the engine, pull it back out to check the actual level. Make sure that your fluid level is above the refill mark. If it is below the refill mark, you add engine oil to the filler tube here. You can't really, there we go. This is where you add engine oil. The red dipstick is your transmission fluid dipstick. To check the fluid, you have to have the vehicle running in neutral with the parking brake applied. Pull the dipstick out, make sure it's in normal operating range. If fluid is needed, add fluid to this tube. That is the only place you can add fluid. While it's running. Okay, that covers your belts, motors, and fluid on the engine. Next is your steering components. This here is your steering column. You make sure, pull on it, tug on it, it's securely fastened and tight. Down here, right here are your couplings. They are not leaking. The joints are not excessively rusted. And the bolts, nuts, and cotter keys are all present. Your steering column is connected to your steering box. This big box is your steering box. You're looking at the hose fittings, making sure they're not excessively rusted, securely fastened, and no leaking fluid. Next is your pitman arm. A pitman arm is here. Then you say drag link here. Follow the drag link to the rear of the tire. This long rod here is called a tie rod. You can mention pitman arm, drag link, and tie rod. All are straight, not bent, and have no missing nuts, bolts, or cotter keys. After you've done your steering, you can move on to your suspension.